How do you design an easy level for a video game? Seriously, despite the name, it's something that's really hard to get right. Generally, easy levels show up at the very start of a game in order to teach you how to play it and prepare you for the inevitable difficulty spikes. If you don't get them right, you either won't be prepared for the actual levels or you'll get stuck before you even reach them. But once you're far enough into a game, easy levels aren't fun anymore. You're too good for them. Of course, they still work really well for narrative purposes or something small like a bonus area, but in general, they exist to get you started. You're not really going back to them. So what about in Geometry Dash? This game has a near infinite number of community-made levels spanning every possible difficulty. And sure enough, this includes easy levels. But unlike other games, there's a reason to check them out. They're short, they give rewards, and it's just fun seeing what creators are making. In fact, a lot of the most liked levels in the game are easy ones thanks to their low barrier to entry. But if you've been playing the game for a while, you might have noticed that something has happened to them. Even though it's the lowest possible difficulty grade, easy levels still require some effort to beat. Like with any level in Geometry Dash, you need to be constantly paying attention and reacting to what's coming up. But as time went on and the game continued to update, this golden rule somehow got lost. Nowadays, a lot of easy levels basically play themselves. Although they look good visually, sections of them are completely empty, and most mistakes made by the player are automatically corrected. Easy levels have obviously never been about challenging yourself, but when I look back at older ones like Retray, they're so much more fun and engaging compared to modern levels, where I just feel bored. This video aims to answer a simple question that's somehow also pretty complicated. What happened? To start things off, I feel like I should give a quick rundown of Geometry Dash's rating system. If you're new to the game, it's very simple, and if you're an experienced player, you can tell that I'm lying. When uploading a Geometry Dash level, you can request the difficulty from 1 to 10 stars. 2 is the easiest, 10 is the hardest, and 1 means the level plays itself. If your level is good enough, a moderator will check it out and also request a star rating. From there, the developer, RobTop, has the final say. Once it's been rated, beating the level will reward you with that many stars, which provides an incentive to actually play the level. Usually people have a good idea of how hard each star rating is, so in most cases the difficulty you request will end up being the level's final rating. That being said, difficulty can be pretty subjective at times. Levels might feel easier if you're good at specific game modes, or if you're the one who spent hours actually making the level. Levels get misrated all the time, but unless it's a demon, which is the highest difficulty, it usually doesn't matter. Personally, I think 1 and 2 stars are accurate, 3 and 4 are basically the same, as are 5 to 7, 8 stars are fine, 9 stars are usually easy demons, and easy demons are either 9 stars or medium demons, which means that all the real medium demons are lame since all the good ones got rated easy instead. Look, I needed at least one hot take for this video. On the other hand, I think everyone can agree that the actual moon difficulties for platformer levels look something like this. But that's a problem for another day. This video is about classic levels. Anyways, if you look at the breakdown of each star rating, 2 star is the least popular difficulty, making up only about 1.6% of rated levels. Yes, there are more completely automatic levels than them. Why is that? Well, like I said before, who wants to play easy levels? Even if you're brand new to the game, you're probably playing the built-in levels, not these ones. And since no one wants to play them, most creators don't want to make them either. They're super limiting design-wise, and there's just not much of a payoff. Let's take a look at a couple examples and I'll show you what I mean. The most iconic easy level in Geometry Dash is probably Stereo Madness, since it's the first level of the game and it doubles as a tutorial. There's definitely custom levels that are easier than it, but I think this level sets a good baseline. Notice how everything in this level is very straightforward. Most spikes are pretty easy to dodge, platforms are clearly laid out, and the whole thing is designed in a way where an experienced player can pretty much autopilot through the entire thing. Now, take a look at the first level of Geometry Dash World, Payload. Because this level manages to get the exact same point across in just 20 seconds. Easy spikes, a couple of platforms, and you're good to go. As simple as the level is, there's still constantly stuff to react to, so you can't look away for too long. But custom levels aren't meant to be tutorials, so what about some of those? Well, the first user-made 2-star is called Darkness, and it's so old that the ID for the level is 1729. For reference, we're past 100 million now. As crude as this level is, it still adopts the same simple gameplay style as Stereo Madness, but also uses some later mechanics like orbs and gravity portals since the average player would already be familiar with them. All in all, it's just an easy level, with the hardest move probably being to jump onto this block since you need to eyeball it. The thing about early Geometry Dash is that there was so little to work with that every level pretty much felt exactly the same. Especially the 2-star ones. By update 1.9, there were lots of new tools to give your level a personality, and it gave us more interesting 2-star levels like Sonar, which is... This is just a copy of Stereo Madness' gameplay with some new game modes. It's the most downloaded easy level, and I think it leaves a great impression for new players, but there just isn't much to say about it. So let's take a look at Lucid Dream, which released just a few days after 1.9 released. The level had some really cool effects for its time, and the purpose of the level was clearly to show them off. Of course, there was still gameplay to go along with it. There's lots of late game mechanics like speed portals and new game modes, but again, it works because this level isn't a tutorial, you know these things already. The whole catch is that the level is just easy. Take this ship part where you simply have to stay high or low depending on where the arrows point, or this ball part where you alternate back and forth. The level has some pretty long pauses between certain jumps, but there's still enough going on for it to keep your attention. As time went on, creators continued to really push what an easy level can be. Retray, for example, is also less focused on gameplay and instead entertains you with its theming. But it's still a level you need to beat, so there's pits to jump over, gaps to fly through, and a super easy wave part that still requires some navigation. This final UFO part is interesting because it kind of tricks you into being intimidated by it, but it's actually impossible to die thanks to some invisible slopes. It takes advantage of the song's energy and gives you a chance to feel really cool. I'm sure this won't be problematic in the future, right? This takes us to Update 2.0, which added huge things like moving objects, infinite colors, and the ability to make anything invisible. We don't talk about Update 2.0. I repeat, we don't talk about Update 2.0. We just don't. By 2.1, it was clear that easy levels had shifted to be much more decoration focused. And honestly, it was awesome. It gave players a reason to check out these levels even if they were way too good for them. They weren't challenging, but they were still super energetic and fun to power through. They had personality. But as time went on, something happened. As the limits of the game were pushed further and further, levels began to look better than they ever had before. But when I would play most 2-star levels, I just felt nothing. Suddenly, I didn't want to see what these levels had to offer anymore. It wasn't until now that I finally started getting that feeling of boredom. That feeling when you're well into a video game but get presented with something way below your skill level. Something that doesn't innovate in any way and gives you no reason to stick around. And it's not just me. 2-star levels have had a very noticeable decline in quality, and it's been a constant complaint in the Geometry Dash community. Most notably, the fact that these levels are somehow getting easier and therefore even less fun to play. Levels that request 2 stars are suddenly being rated 3, while the new easy levels are almost fully automatic. Now, I obviously didn't want to single out a specific 2-star level and form my opinion around it, so I sat down and played almost 100 of them. That's where all the footage you're seeing comes from. That might sound a bit crazy, and if it doesn't, just know that I was also taking notes on them. But this was actually a good idea because sure enough, I was quick to find a consistent pattern across these levels. Obviously, visuals play a huge role in pretty much every level nowadays, but for this section in particular, I want to focus on what you're actually doing as a player. One of the most interesting things I noticed is actually the song choice for modern easy levels. Out of all the levels I played, about 2/3 of them were slow and very calm. And this is probably because upbeat songs usually call for more energetic gameplay, which is generally reserved for higher difficulties. So we're left with the opposite. Slow songs with slow movement and very calm design. The whole thing feels kind of sleepy, especially if you're coming from harder, more fast-paced levels. Which leads me to my second thing I noticed, lots of downtime. Downtime simply refers to any point in a game where nothing is going on. Something like a loading screen or the camera panning during a cutscene. If making it longer would be annoying, it's probably downtime. In the context of Geometry Dash, downtime is simply when nothing is happening in a level. And in easy levels, there's a lot of it. You'll often jump over a spike, then sit and do nothing until the next one appears. Or you'll land on a platform and wait for a while. Or maybe there's a cutscene that feels way longer than it needs to be. In older levels like Sonar, you're always doing something, but now there's a lot of time spent waiting, mainly due to the slow songs with long pauses between each note. This doesn't ruin a level by any means, and sometimes even helps give it personality. But Geometry Dash is also a game that's specifically designed to minimize this downtime. It's presented as a very rapid-fire game, and all the built-in levels follow that. It's the reason why you instantly respawn after each attempt instead of having to sit through some long break. So what about when the level actually has obstacles? Well, in easy levels, they're rarely chained. This means that they don't connect or build off each other that much. For example, this spike has no influence on the next one. They aren't connected in any way. Neither are these blocks in something like this. Simply put, you spend a lot of time on the ground as opposed to jumping from platform to platform. But what if a part is more complicated? Enter jump indicators. These guys that tell you exactly when to click. You'll find these in a lot of rated levels all the way up to demons, but in easy levels they're especially excessive. Sometimes they'll point out really obvious moves for you, and other times the gameplay is so incredibly vague that you actually need them. A lot of art creators will use indicators as an excuse to really camouflage their gameplay with the environment, but it always felt kind of lazy to me. It takes away from the experience of trying to read the level for yourself. More often than not, art levels treat gameplay as an afterthought, and sometimes it actively sabotages the level. This is especially bad with 2-star levels, because it makes failing in one almost always feel like the level's fault and not your own. After all, why else would you mess up on the easiest difficulty in the game? I guess I should also address the flying game modes like ship and UFO. These sections are often very empty. Enough so that they're interchangeable with any flying mode. Usually you're just flying through the middle the entire time, and more often than not, you can get away with doing nothing at all. In that sense, it's a bit like the first ship part in Stereo Madness, but dumbed down even further. Last but not least, we have the staple of every modern easy level. Let's give it up for the guardrails. It's probably the easiest way to get a 2-star rating, and the way it works is extremely simple. Make it so you cannot lose. Yes, there's still some obstacles, but for most accidents, the level will just pull you back up like Lakitu. Take this ship part, for example, where pretty much every right angle has been rounded out with a slope. This means that you can rest on the bottom the entire time because you'll slide up every wall that comes your way. Slopes are a pretty common guardrail simply because you can make it look like part of the gameplay. But a lot of levels don't even do that. They'll often use these fading slopes that clearly send the message that they're only there to baby you. You might also see saw blades get covered by them, so touching one simply knocks you around. But if you think that's bad, a lot of levels will make the slopes fully invisible. This is something I've never been able to understand, because if you're making a 2-star level, clarity should be a huge priority. When you do this, it confuses all the new players and makes all the experienced ones feel lied to. Why hide what's in your level when you can make it part of the design? That way, everybody wins. Slopes aren't the only guardrail though. Some levels will give each input a complementary jump pad so that if you don't click, the level will do it for you. And other levels will have more subtle rigging, like allowing you to bump your head or slide on everything in the wave part. What I'm wondering though is why don't levels take more advantage of these guards? If you have a part where you can't die, you could make the section look and feel a lot harder since it's safe anyways. This is exactly what Retray does with its UFO part, and it works really nicely as long as it's done in moderation. Anyways, thanks to all these strategies, a handful of easy levels only require a small number of clicks. There's even a level called Closer, which obviously expects you to play it, but there's so many guards in place that it's actually beatable by doing absolutely nothing. Though part of me wants to believe that this level was made as a sort of commentary on easy levels, since it wasn't even requested to be too. So yeah, that's modern 2-stars in a nutshell. Slow song, easy jumps, lots of downtime, and your hand is being firmly held through the entire thing. But if you look at some of the older 2-star levels, it's clear that you never needed any of these to get that rating. All you need to do is make a level that's easy. A level that still requires effort, but not a high skill level. Sonar did it, Dark Paradise did it, so how did we get here in the first place? The naive answer would be that rate standards have changed. Most people say that an old 2-star level would land at 3 or 4 now, because modern ones keep lowering the bar more and more. But I actually disagree with this. The standards have obviously changed a little bit, but I think most of the problem comes from our assumptions. Geometry Dash levels don't just appear. Every single one is made by a real person who made real decisions for real reasons. Every time a level is uploaded on the servers, it means that a creator was motivated enough to finish something that they wanted other people to see. It sounds kind of silly, but think about it. All those 2-star levels that basically play themselves have a lot of decisions that went into them. So why are creators choosing to do this? Well, for one, the style of gameplay in Geometry Dash is constantly evolving. It doesn't make any sense to expect easy levels to play like Stereo Madness because you don't see any harder levels that play like Jumper. Ever since the rise of triggers and the overall stronger focus on visuals, we've totally steered away from this style of traditional gameplay. Now it's about making something that simply feels really nice to play. The gameplay and aesthetics of modern levels complement their songs so much more than old map pack levels ever could, and I'm pretty happy with that. But 2-star levels don't really work well with this formula. The songs are often slow, so the levels feel that way as well. More importantly though, almost every 2-star level is directly requested to be 2 stars. This is kind of obvious, but it means that the creator built the level with the intent of making it easy. You don't just decide that a level will be 2 stars halfway through building.
With Swiffer Duster, you get a clean, even mama cruiser. Swiffer, love it or your money back.
Introducing Blueprint AI, built by designers.
The Pep Boys Early Labor Day event is here. Buy 3 tires, get the 4th tire free, plus 50% off installation on select Cooper tires. Or get a free synthetic oil change at time of service when you buy 4 Kumo tires. Make your appointment today.
Hazelnut. Meat chocolate. Crispy. Neat cream. Irresistible.
Oh, you can skip the ad.
Constant reminders of your moderate to severe Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis can make it hard to be there when...
Because an easy level needs lots of extra thought and restrictions that you would never worry about otherwise. Problem is, making a good easy level is hard. Really hard, especially if you're an experienced player past that skill level. You have to really think about every input of the level. So when you're not good at this kind of level design but still have your heart set on making a 2-star, the natural solution is to make really watered down gameplay with a ton of safeguards. And that right there is the exact point where the creator goes wrong. The problem is their commitment to making a 2-star level. The idea that getting a higher difficulty rating by accident makes them a failure. So in order to guarantee this rating, they play it really safe. They constantly nerf their gameplay and add guardrails everywhere. As for why people want the rating so bad, well, people like trying new things. Making a 2-star level can be a fun exercise that lets you approach creating in a totally different way. But in my opinion, if you have to resort to such safe and uninteresting gameplay to get that rating, you didn't do a very good job. So at this point, why not just make an auto level? Well, then the level becomes too boring. Because auto levels usually take advantage of the lack of player input in order to do some really cool things. So unless your 2-star level is like 90% focused on the effects and visuals, it's not worth it. Also, some people, me, are too impatient to even sit through an auto level. I only really play them for list rewards, and if I don't find one interesting, it feels like I'm sitting there waiting for an ad to finish. But then again, does inserting really mediocre gameplay at the last minute make it any better? Oh, also, I guess we should look at the other end. What about the levels that did put more thought into their gameplay and got rated 3 stars instead of 2? To answer this, I actually decided to take a look at a bunch of these levels, specifically normal levels that requested 2 stars. And surprisingly, they're not much harder. Most of the time, they tend to be a stereotypical 2-star level, just with something notably flawed or poorly designed. For example, in this case, the gameplay is super easy, but the visuals are confusing and make it hard to tell where you're supposed to jump. Or here, it looks a lot scarier than it actually is, but there's lots of invisible safeguards and fake obstacles. And sometimes the gameplay is technical enough that it actually warrants being 3 stars. But what about Stereo Madness? That's a pretty technical level and it even has triple spikes. Well, in case you've forgotten, that level isn't even 2 stars. It's 1. But also, this level is meant to teach you how the game works. It's not the same as a custom level, so I don't think it's right to compare it. There's parts that work well as a 2-star and parts that don't, but it was never trying to be one. It's just the first level of the game. You know, I've been talking a lot of crap about easy levels in this video, but I feel the need to point out that they're not all like this. There are plenty of modern 2-star levels that broke the really unfun formula and actually stuck with me. And I want to quickly cover a few because there's one super important thing that they have in common. Have a look at this level, Cloudy by Danner. Or is it D-Hanner? I don't know. This level is absurdly easy, but it's also happy and upbeat. It still requires some effort and it's pretty honest with the gameplay. There's no invisible hazards or guardrails. It's a level that any player can enjoy and it doesn't feel like it's holding your hand because it's so easy that it doesn't have to. The goal of the level is simply for you to have fun. Here's another one, Space Station by Splinter25, which won Best Easy Level at last year's GD Awards. The theming is incredible, but what sticks out to me even more is the fact that just like Cloudy, the level is honest. It's insanely easy if you put in the effort, but if you choose to stop flying your ship for whatever reason, it's not going to correct you with invisible slopes. You're encouraged to put in a little bit of effort so that you can experience the level in the way the creator intended. Also, there's a triple speed portal and even a dual section. Things that many 2-star levels wouldn't even dare to touch unless they're fully auto. Next up is Holder's Heaven by Lisp and some other folks. This level looks insanely difficult, but the gimmick is that all you have to do is hold down the entire time. Whether this should be auto or not is definitely up for debate, and I personally think it should be, but you can't deny that it's super cool. And that's basically the only reason I'm showing it off. It completely challenges the definition of a 2-star level, because it can. Finally, we have Cosmic Dolphin by Manix, made for the Deeper Space project, which consists of some more traditional style levels. Yes, this level is rated 3 stars, but that's because it didn't request a difficulty. I wholeheartedly believe it would have gotten 2 if they pushed for it, but since they didn't, the stereotype got the best of it. This one's just a great level all around. The gameplay is easy but super creative, and as usual, you actually have to participate. Every corner of this level has so much life, and it's what keeps me coming back to it even if I don't feel any challenge. So what exactly do these levels have in common? Being fun? Because that's kind of subjective. No, actually, it's something that's both really subtle, but also something that couldn't be more obvious. These levels have a target audience. What I mean is that these are levels that any player can enjoy. You could be coming from an extreme demon and you won't feel ridiculed by these levels at all. Simply put, the levels don't treat you like you're stupid. They're easy, but they expect you to know how to play the game. They hold the assumption that you already know all the game modes, or how to survive a duel part, or how a dash orb works, because 99% of custom level players do know. Don't get me wrong, new players are definitely at a disadvantage. I'm sure there's lots of stuff in Space Station that would confuse the heck out of them, like these alternating gravity portals or this moving rocket ship. But first of all, you should at least know the very basics from the official levels. And secondly, when you're a beginner, it's okay to take multiple attempts to beat these levels, because that's your current skill level. And with time, you'll get better at the game. These levels understand that you don't need to rig them so everyone beats it first try. It takes away from the learning experience if you're a beginner, and it feels like an insult to your skill if you're not. And that right there highlights the #1 problem with most of the easy levels nowadays. The reason people don't enjoy them is because they don't appeal to anybody. There is no audience. Consider this. If a level is filled with slopes and other safeguards to prevent you from dying, you get this feeling that they're there to catch people who aren't as good at the game. After all, they're the ones who are most likely playing the 2-star levels. But if that's who they're building the level for, why do they go on to use such advanced features? They expect you to know all the mechanics and game modes, they expect you to be comfortable upside down, and they go on to do all sorts of unconventional things that make no sense unless you're already used to custom levels. So if the level isn't aimed towards old players, but also isn't aimed towards new players, who does that leave? Well, nobody. Everyone loses. Unless you're only there for the visuals or overall vibe of the level, there's just no point. This all leads to one final question. How do you make a good 2-star level? One that people will enjoy in the moment and maybe even want to replay? The answer is simply to break away from what everyone else is doing. And for those who actually feel like taking a crack at it, here are 10 quick tips that I thought of. But first, let me just... That's Mr. Cologne to you. First off, like I said before, figure out your audience. If you're making a level with new players in mind, try and keep it as straightforward as possible. This means avoiding invisible blocks, custom portals, things like H-blocks, or anything you can't figure out simply by looking at it. Keep your transitions very simple, and leave some time to play around with any new game modes. On the other hand, if you're making a level for experienced players, well, they already know how everything works, so don't bore them, keep them engaged. Tip number 2, the level doesn't have to be slow. People often pick slow songs because it makes for naturally easy gameplay. After all, calm songs don't really fit into harder levels. I stand corrected. But yeah, this has never been a rule. Look at how levels like Sonar or Retry handle this. Number 3, study the levels you like. Everyone has different tastes in levels. Maybe you disagree with everything I've said in this video, and in that case, I don't know why you're still watching, but this tip still applies. Replay those 2 or 3-star levels that stood out for you, figure out why you like them so much, and use it as a starting point for your next project. Number 4, strike a balance with the visuals. If you want to make an easy level, one of the most important factors is clarity. You are free to go as hard as you want on the decorations, in fact I encourage it, but all the solid blocks and hazards need to be as clear as day. There should be no confusion surrounding the hitboxes. And I know that sounds really lame, but if you're seriously going for a 2-star rating, it is a sacrifice you need to make, and it will make your level far more accessible. Tip 5, remember the gameplay. If you're only in it for the visuals or the storytelling, maybe just work on an auto level instead, because people go into levels expecting to play something, and if the gameplay ends up being super mediocre, then it really hurts the experience. The most infamous example of this is probably the Portal Gauntlet. Every level in this gauntlet is a masterpiece, if you're watching them on YouTube. As soon as you're in control, it's hard to focus on anything the creator intended because you're constantly worrying about the tiny obstacles that will kill you and force you to restart the XL level all over again. That's not to say these levels should be auto, I just personally think the gameplay needs to feel a bit more natural so you're not constantly paranoid as I was. Tip number 6, no guardrails. Get them out of here. Kill them. If you need to rely on invisible slopes and safe floors and all that stuff, you're basically just admitting that you completely gave up. If for whatever reason you really need them, at the very least, be honest. Don't use these fading blocks, make it look like an intentional part of the level. And make sure you can't pass any flying sections by doing nothing. Make sure you can't stay on the floor or ceiling for too long. Also, if you really want, there are more subtle ways to cheat in favor of the player. You can extend the hitboxes of some platforms or make orbs larger, but generally you should be honest about these things as well, or restructure your gameplay so you don't have to do it. 7. Give your level a personality. All of my favorite 2-star levels have something that really feels unique to them. Maybe it's a very different gameplay style like Cloudy, or a memorable theme like Retray, or a bit of a story to tell like in Space Station. Lock into something that will make your level feel different in a sea of hundreds of other ones. Something people will remember it for. Number 8, push what it means to be a 2-star level. The only real requirement is that it's a level that requires some player input that almost every experienced player will beat on the first try. Nobody said it has to be conventional. Holder's Heaven technically meets this requirement, and that's why it's rated 2 stars despite looking insane. Another great example is The Spike is Over There, which only has 1 click, but the whole joke is that the level is trying to hold your hand by directly talking to you.
Okay, actually, no, wait, I think I actually see a spike this time. No, wait, no. That's not a spike, that's an orb. That's an orb.
And another one I like is Last Punishment, which has an optional challenge of avoiding every mirror portal in the level, or touching them all if you prefer that. It manages to completely distract you from what would otherwise be boring gameplay. There are so many ways to make a level feel original without making it harder, so play around. Tip 9, take risks with your gameplay. Yes, it's hard to make an easy level, but you don't have to be in constant fear the entire time. You don't have to nerf everything in your level to guarantee a 2-star rating. If the inputs are easy, it doesn't matter if there's a lot or a few of them. So don't be afraid to make sections that are slightly more involved. Worst case scenario, your level is rated 3 stars, but it's way more enjoyable, and you get an extra star for beating it. I think it's well worth taking that chance, since more often than not, the failed 2 stars are a result of bad design or being far too technical. So at the very least, watch out for that and get some playtesters if you're unsure. I know getting a tester for an easy level sounds ridiculous, but they are there to provide feedback. And my final tip is to just request 2 stars. Maybe your level is actually more like 3, but whatever. Most of the moderators are pretty good at this game, so the jump in difficulty between 2 and 3 stars is really hard to notice unless something sticks out a lot. Unfortunately, I think a lot of levels will still be set for 3 simply because of the stereotype that easy levels need to baby you the entire time. But if you push for it in the level description or find some other way to make it really clear, there's always a chance. So there you have it, my thoughts on 2-star levels, what I think happened to them, and where we can potentially go from here. I want to make it clear that I don't hate the modern ones, I just think we could be doing so much better overall. There is zero reason to be hateful towards any of these levels or their creators, since they're usually just passion projects that they felt like making for fun. I had to record a ton of footage for this video, and I don't have anything against any of the levels I showcased. They're simply there as examples to help you better understand what I was trying to say. You should know by now that making a 2-star level is hard, so I'm happy for every creator who's willing to take a shot at it, even if they don't get it exactly right. As always, thank you so much for sitting through my little yap session and hearing me out. I love diving into nerdy stuff like this, and I'm happy to do more of it if people are interested. But for now, 2-star levels are still the least common rating in the game, so if you're a creator with some free time on your hands, get out there and make something. After all, it's easy.